Hello, everyone. This is Roger Phipps, and welcome to UCF Business Talk Live, the only UCF business show for UCF business owners. My name is Roger Phipps. I'm the COO and founder for Seven Lights Marketing, Bird Eye View Inc., and several other businesses. I'm also your financial and tech consultant, and I'm happy to be here this week with you. Last week, we had a great show with Jesse Wolf, UCF Business Royalty. This week, we've got Josh Lazar back. Let's bring Josh in. Hey Josh, welcome back this week.
It's me. I'm on the screen now. Thanks
You
for
are on the
having
screen.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Rob Powers. Hey, Rob, how are you? And then I think he's muted himself.
Eternally muted.
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry about that. I'm muted now.
All right, awesome. And then we've got Alan Levin joining us again this week. We missed him last week. Alan was doing big things like he always does. Welcome back, Alan. Glad to have you back this week. And this week, we're going to be discussing product strategy. So different things. Alan's kind of gone through this exercise here recently. Rob has gone through this exercise recently. Josh, I don't know if you have, but we'll be talking about it. So we're going to be talking about to bundle or not to bundle. Complementary products, pricing, single price, product focus, and SaaS models. So lots of things to talk about, but one of the most important things that you can make a decision on when you're going out and have a business that you're starting is what's your product going to be? How are you going to present it? And, what's that pricing look like? And it's important that you're informed. For everyone who isn't in the stream, I am remote, so my lighting is a little off today. If my audio is a little off today, please give me some grace. No, we can't all have great signage behind us like Rob does with that Sports Bliss sign. I mean, it's amazing. So with all that being said, Josh, did you want to give any thoughts on last week? And Rob and Alan, I know you weren't able to join us, but hopefully you guys caught it. Really, really cool show. And we've actually got two more people already lined up. We won't say who they're going to be yet, but they're coming back and they're successful UCF business owners. So Josh?
Yeah, last week was amazing. And it's why I'm sad when I can't be here. Like I'm not going to be on the show next week because I'm out of town at an event. Sometimes it's just not only wonderful to watch these great UCF business owners talk about where they've been, how they've grown, and how they can help others, but kind of being in that mix and vibe was just, it was wonderful. It's why we were talking about it after the show. I just kind of shut down and shut my mouth and let Roger run because Roger and Jesse just working together it was just really, really good. And that's why it was about live an hour and 45 minutes and easily could have gone on for a couple of more. So it was wonderful. And I was just glad to be a part of it. Although maybe next time I'll speak up a smidge a bit more, but it was wonderful. And I know today is going to be great as well.
Yeah, it's it's always a pleasure to talk with other business owners who've been successful. There's so much to glean. I learn something every single time that I have a conversation like that. And of course, it's always a positive to network as well, right? So you want to surround yourself with successful people. And I'd like to think we did that with this group that we have. Certainly very smart people. And but the great thing is you get to go through this journey with us, right? So as we learn, as we run across things, hopefully you guys can connect with some of that. So let's go ahead and start talking a little bit about product strategy. So products obviously are what you offer, right? And you want to offer it in a way that a client or potential client can understand, right? You don't want to make it so convoluted that people don't understand what that is. You also want to understand your product at a level that if you have multiple products, you know which ones go together, and that's kind of like understanding the complementary side of it. And then it's also what products you want to offer going forward. So once you've got some traction with a specific product that you've started, it's also about understanding what products to add to that in the future, because if you want to continue to grow, you don't want to be a single product service. and you want to continue to move forward. So with that being said, Rob, I guess we'll start with you this week. You recently went through this exercise of products. What was that journey like for you, and that self-discovery, and where did you land?
It's interesting. So when I started, I was thinking more of an a la carte. That's just the way I am. I'm in the health industry, and I think about solving a patient's problem and coming up with a solution for them, what's right for them. But I've kind of reflected on this, and yes, you have to do that. But at the same time, if you want to scale your business, it has to be somewhat of a reproducible situation that you can solve, say, 80% of people's problems, right? With a solution. And kind of the goal I've come to is to find not only the one kind of need they have, but also there's a lot of underlying or hidden needs that your client will have, right? So what they really need is the one thing to solve their initial problem, but they need a signature solution to get all these underlying or hidden problems that come out in the conversation with them. So I've kind of settled on doing packages. And with that, it can be flexible because maybe they don't need everything you're offering, but I break it down into kind of 3 goals: a good, a better, and best solution for them. And sometimes the best solution is not right for them. And I tell them straight out, you don't need this. This is too much for you. And look at the other ones. But ultimately, you have to guide them also, because when they're coming to you, they're looking for, and I think this is with any industry, they're looking for you to solve their problem. They know what their problem is, but they don't know the solution. That's the reason they're coming to you. And you're there to guide them, honestly, give them a great solution, and let them decide what's in their budget, what they can afford, and what they want to move forward with. So that's kind of the strategy I've gone with, to be more simplistic and break it down simply.
Okay, awesome. And Alan, you've kind of gone through this process recently too. If you want to share some insights from your seat.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I think the biggest game changer was, not looking at my services as services and looking at it more as products. And I know technically those terms could be interchangeable, but when I started looking at, and this is, good advice from Roger, was starting looking at my stuff as products, I was able to, properly bundle things and I think offer more value with my products. Because in the digital marketing world, there's just certain products, or if you want to call them services, but products that go together well and can enhance what you do for your client and get them better results. So, you could a la carte some things, but even if you do, you could say, hey, we can add on or bundle a couple more things that are just going to enhance this. So, an example might be something like, hey, we're going to do your Google advertising, and that may seem like a la carte, but hey, let's bundle on like a heat map so that we can optimize your conversions, see what your users are doing when they get to your landing page. Are they, quickly bouncing off, or are they having some frustration signals like they're rage clicking or something like that? And we can enhance what you're doing and improve it. So for me, bundling certain things that make sense to go together to provide more value was kind of a game changer for me. Instead of just thinking of my stuff as just services, really bundling those products has helped me provide more value to my clients.
Awesome. Josh, what about your journey? You offer a lot of different things. So there's like the fractional pieces, you offer consulting, you offer a lot of different things. So what was that journey like for you?
So I actually started using, kind of thinking about what I do as products, because I sell a lot of services, whether it's fractional CIO work or technology assessments or cloud lifts. But what I've taken is some of, kind of like what Alan was saying, taking some of the just generic things that are done, and I've actually either bundled in freebies into a larger project, because a lot of the things have set costs in where I work in. So I'll put them in and bundle them as a part of this entire set and give it as a bigger price. and not just trying to glom on, but trying to give more value, but adding to what I could get from that project. Or sometimes I'll pull it out on line items on a statement of work or a contract and say, hey, this is what we could do, but if you want to do X or Y or Z, here's your total cost. But if you want to just pick one or two, we can work with that as well. And sometimes I there is an upsell aspect to it, but I like just here's what we could do for you. Here's what we suggest. It's up to you how you spend your money, but these are the services we can offer. And I've done that a couple of times now, and it seems like the more I do that and give the list, I get more than the minimum. So I literally signed a contract today with someone that we had a bundled product, service product, same Allen comparison, right? But it was we're doing some operational analysis, and they wanted some training in some of the areas to have better conversations before we actually did the analysis. So that kind of just was an add-on just because we had discovery conversations and went, oh, well, you have 3 different ways to communicate internally. Let's have a conversation about that. So I've kind of been working on that journey too. And it's interesting when you're trying to bundle things that aren't like physical object and products, when it's really services, but there are ways to do it when you have multiple things you could do to help someone else out. So that's been my journey so far, and it's been kind of fun.
Awesome. Yeah. So in my experience, the way I kind of tend to look at these things is, okay, first of all, to Rob's point, I'm going to pick and choose a little bit out of all of what you guys talked about, right? So to Rob's point, number one is identify client needs, right? So what are the problems that you're trying to solve for a client, right? And what knowledge do you bring to the table to provide value for them? So that's number one. And I would just list out the needs, right? If you have multiple products and you're offering multiple solutions, then I'm going to kind of look at it like Alan does, and we talked about this at length, is kind of looking at as a value proposition, right? So not everybody is going to be at a point where they can afford the top of the shelf solution, right? So our approach has always been, okay, we're a full agency. We're going to look at all these things. We're going to identify what things work well together that are quote unquote complementary products. Now, you heard me kind of call that out at the beginning of the show as something we were going to talk about. And what does a complementary product mean? It means that if I'm your strategist, which is what I'm really doing for you, right? And when I'm having that conversation, I'm having that open dialogue where I'm understanding, okay, you have a need, you're coming to me to try to solve something. Because I hate using but, you have that need, I'm asking you the questions to articulate it. And then I'm looking at my list of solutions that I can offer you and say, okay, are you asking the right questions to get the results? Right? And working your way backwards. Like, I want to increase sales. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, and start backing that off. And then looking at my list of products and understanding you don't necessarily need to list them as bundled services, right? You can. That's certainly a solution you can have. But I tend to take the strategy approach, which is, okay, I understand my products well enough. I've looked at them ahead of time. I understand which ones work well together to get you towards whatever that end game is that you're trying to get to, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that, I know if I put these full suite of products together, this one's going to make this one better. It's going to drive results for you better. You may not necessarily be able to afford that. So I'm going to try to provide you as much value as I can towards the goals that you're stating, right? Within the budget that you have. And my goal is to grow as a marketer. My goal is to grow your business. And if I'm growing your business and I'm demonstrating that to you, then that means that you're going to have more money to spend, right, to keep that snowball going and eventually expanding your reach and so forth so you can continue to grow. So for me, it's, okay, what are the needs that I'm trying to solve for people? And there's usually 4 or 5 different things that your business is trying to solve. Which products do you have and value can you bring to the table that solve each one of those needs? All right. And then understanding that front end so that when you have a conversation with a client, It's informed where you can give them the most value for their budget. And that's ultimately what you're trying to do, right? Bundled products, a lot of times what you'll see is you'll see folks, it's all about what your intention is. Is your intention to get the most money out of every client, or is it to provide them the best value for their, in my case, marketing dollar, right? In Rob's case, health dollar, right? In Josh's case, lots of different things dollar, and in Alan's case, marketing dollar as well. That's what you'll hear me say. So when I'm looking at that, it's really doing the work, understanding the needs, understanding which solutions work well together, and then kind of parsing that down to what the client's strengths are, and also how you can meet those needs. So let me ask you, Rob, from your perspective, complementary products, have you gotten a lot of experience with that and identifying that when you started looking at the bundles? Because I know recently you did that as well.
So I think it's also important when you talk about bundling, it's not just bundling. So this is just my personal philosophy, is that you have to have one kind of idea you're marketing. Because ultimately, in my situation, patients come in, and usually what happens, they come in because what I market is weight loss, okay? But really, it's multiple things. They're coming in for weight loss, but what happens with that? They're usually tired and fatigued. Most people are in their 40s, 50s. They have hormonal imbalance, like low testosterone for men, hormonal imbalance for women. So then that's the second part of the bundle. And then the third part is usually there's some type of sexual dysfunction. And so there's a product to add for that. And really the idea is they really have the complaint of all three of those things, right? But they're just kind of shy about it, and they come in with the intention of wanting to lose weight. So then what you do is you create a whole signature solution. So you kind of have a core offer of what they're coming in for, and hopefully you're known for that you're very good at that, helping patients lose weight. But you're also providing quality and value because you're providing a situation where they sustain weight loss. They're not just going somewhere where they get a product, they lose some weight, they stop it, they gain it back. You're giving them a true solution to their problem, and they see the value in it as you interview them, talk to them, get to know them. And that's what we all do, right? When we meet a customer, we talk to them and try to find out what their real problem is, and then give them the best solution we can. Well, that's what you're kind of doing with packages, in my opinion. You're just kind of giving them the option and explaining, well, this one will kind of take care of your problem and it'll do the bare minimum. This one will be better, but this is really what you're telling me you want. And they make the decision. And I can tell you in it, it's not like I'm selling to them. I'm just listening to them and showing them the treatment options, and they choose. And quite honestly, I would say 9 out of 10 that move forward choose before I even talk about any type of prices or anything. They know what they want to do. And because they want the solution, right? And that's really what you're selling, is a solution, not a product in any type of industry. So that's kind of what I've been recently, because it's a new business for me. This is what I've come to know or discover. And it seems to be the right way in my mind, I guess.
Well, it sounds almost like you're diagnosing the problem and providing the best solution.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any difference between someone who, like in your case, where you're diagnosing a medical solution and saying, here, this is the right product. But the great thing that we've talked about is you are also, and you said this earlier, you're honest with your clients and saying, okay, these are the things that are complementary products. However, based on your needs, this is the one that I recommend. And it may not necessarily be the most expensive one. And what you're doing is providing trust, in your case in healthcare, but in all of our businesses, trust that you are doing the right thing for your client. And I love that you do that for them.
Thank you.
All right. Alan, why don't you jump in on this? Share a little bit about your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Rob. I mean, for me, it's, and also with what you said, it's providing the most value. It's like what you've told, what I've talked about is what products can offer the most value for your budget. How can we maximize your budget? So, some budgets are lower than other clients and some are, at that sweet spot that you really strive for and hope for. But our goal is to have them grow to the point where they can get to that budget. I mean, I get a lot of questions, what is the ideal budget? And I actually personally don't like that question because, I don't think there's a perfect number. It really depends on your goals, who your target persona is, what platforms you have available to you, what the competition is doing, what the cost per click is. I have to look at all these different numbers. So for me, I need to analyze, you tell me what your budget is, and then we can try to maximize that value. So maybe if you're at a lower budget to start, we may start out with something like search engine optimization, and it's going to be a longer term play. But if you're like, hey, I need immediate needs and my budget's a little bit bigger, all right, let's maybe do some PPC or some Facebook advertising and get you some of those immediate, leads, some of those immediate results where we can grow and ultimately start spending more. So I agree that it kind of revolves around the client, their needs, what's best for them, and how to maximize that budget. So of course there's going to be some budgets that maybe are just too low, and you have to kind of be honest, like, hey, I don't think we're going to get results based on what you told me your goals are. So it's just kind of being honest and upfront with them. But if they have a suitable budget, then it's revolving it around that, and we're going to do the best thing for you to maximize your budget and try to meet your goals and grow with you.
Awesome. Yeah. I love that you described it that way, right? Because you have to understand what products are complementary and be able to choose that to be able to provide the right solution for them, right? So it's understanding which ones work together, which ones. So whether you're bundling it as a package or whether you're just strategizing and having that conversation and then trying to meet needs, you have to understand which products and the key thing is to do the work up front to understand which products work best for the client. So Josh, how about for you?
I'd say understanding what you do as an organization and how that all ties together, I 100% agree with that, because the core of what everything I do in the IT services area usually starts with some type of assessment or analysis. And I've in my business growth, I've gone from the discounting to get in the door to this is what we do. This is what we do well. We've done it well for many people. This is what it is. And I've gotten a few, like Alan, saying, this is outside my budget. Okay, well, maybe I can do something a little different, but it's not the full complexity of what you need. And then you figure out how to back off or do different products or different areas there. But what we've seen is that once you get from our services, once you get in the door to kind of get an analysis of what you have technologically or operationally in these organizations, then that's where you understand how you can provide the value, because it's not really upfront with what we do. If you want to move to the cloud, well, that's what you're doing. And it's a big project. Or if you need a technology assessment to make sure operations and your technology departments are working in sync and making sure that they're all working together to complement each other, you can't do that and then bundle in training into there. We do that, but that's not kind of how that works. So our initial product gets the needs identified. Then once we have that, we can either have add-on services or we're the thought leader in place to help with some of those things. And if we're not, we have a bit of a business network, right? To outsource. If people wanted my help with marketing, I'd tell them no and then point them into two directions right from this conversation. So to us, that bundling doesn't happen right up front unless it's a very unique thing. But what we do leads further and further down the road to build a really good business partnership instead of just being a vendor with the people we serve.
Yeah, I love that. It's about the partnership, right? Long term. So and it really kind of delves us and pushes us into our next point. By the way, do you guys love these hats or what?
Yeah,
Oh, there's
absolutely.
stuff in the background of them too. I just noticed that. It's
Yeah,
not just a logo. Oh,
that's
that's
all of our
cool.
products. Yeah, so I'm very proud of this. This is the first hat I've ever designed. So we've got an
Nice.
alternate logo too. So I'll pitch those
Nice.
later. But one of the things we do is branding, and you know, um, I just wanted to show it because I'm pretty proud of this one. It's not, and everything I do I'm not proud of, but this is something like that I think I actually like. So, but anyway, so one of the other things that we wanted to talk about tonight is, okay, if we're understanding that we are bundling some products together, and Josh, you kind of talked about this, like providing value and value add, and then understanding what someone's budget is, and then kind of like pushing some things together and saying, hey, um, I can throw these things together that will provide them that comparable value, but also offer them some extra value. So when you're going through that pricing, and you're going through, you've got their budget in front of you, you're going to do that pitch, and you're going to bundle some things together. What is your process when you go through and trying to identify those things?
So I'm sorry. I just got distracted by the NBA draft. Give me one more round of the question. I'm sorry.
Oh, did our favorite son get picked up or no?
I think it might be happening right now.
I was
That's
just
why.
gonna ask
Sorry.
that. I was just gonna ask that.
Okay. Sorry. I was looking, and I was and the Magic picked Anthony Black, so that was kind
Doesn't
of
look
what
like
it was.
he hasn't gone yet. No.
Yeah, but it's Hendrick's supposed to go 9th, possibly.
Yeah, they're
the
saying
Jazz.
possibly Utah.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I got distracted. Let's run it back, Roger. So ask me a question again, and I'll actually answer it this time.
All right, so guys, we've got some excitement. Taylor Hendricks, our first top 10 NBA draft pick. This is going live. This is going on live while we're doing the show. So basically what I'm saying is, you were talking earlier about adding value for clients and bundling products together. And then we were talking about pricing, right? So if you bundle something together for a client, you're not necessarily going to charge them full price for everything. You can offer them basically some discounts on certain things to have more services. So what's your thought process? Like, how do you approach that when you're pitching a client or putting together a proposal for a client?
So that's interesting, because discounting is something that I've evolved on personally after reading some books and listening to some podcasts and reading some articles. I don't start with discounting anymore, and the reason is because more than likely a customer might renegotiate on the way back. So if I already start with a discount, then I might have to give deeper than I have to, and I don't inflate prices to think that discount is coming. But what I try to do is just provide what the value is. And that's why when I do calendar connections and whatnot, I have prices to an hourly rate on those calendar appointments, because our time is worth money. And
Right.
Some people don't realize that. So when it comes all the way back to the products and the things I put together, I don't do any discounts. Here are the line items. Here's what you can choose. And sometimes I'll expect it to come back. Some people, they see the value. A company making $1 billion sees the price and probably just writes a check, depending on the cost, right? If it's like a low to mid 6-figure, there'll probably be some negotiations. But if it's a small cost that's nothing, and I've had that happen, there's just a signature. And there's some people that just want to negotiate for months, depending on the size of the contract, depending on the company. So I just put it out there. I don't discount when adding line items. I either expect it to come in the back end, and if it doesn't, I'm still going to provide the same value or service. But if it gets to the point where it's not fiscally responsible for us to do that, we have a conversation negotiation. And I've never, so far to my knowledge, I haven't lost out on value yet. But discounting, to me, even if you're bundling things together, there's different philosophies on it, and what I like is that this is the value I provide, and you're coming to me because we have in this group a lot of people that know their stuff, and there's a reason why you're coming to us. So we're going to provide you that value, and this is what it is. And so yeah, that's been working pretty well for me. When I started, I was like, hey, this is my retail price, and I'm going to knock 10 or 20 or whatever percent because you're a nonprofit or because I like you, and that kind of just right up front diminishes your value in my perspective. So that's
do you have Josh, do you have a lot of competitors in your space? Because it's kind of like a niche thing that you're doing, and
yeah,
your approach may be a little bit different. That's why I want to bring that to the table.
Sure. I would say for the main things we do, there's at least 10 known competitors in the space. So it's not just me and 3 other people. It's not hundreds, but it's not 2. So it's possible. And I just had a conversation about this at one of the 3 events I was at for both business development and knowledge gathering today. When you win on price, sometimes there's a reason for that. And if
you also lose on price. So this is something Alan and I were talking about too, right? So a lot of people, when they go into business, they'll try to win on price, but those are also the clients that either A, cost you the most in time, right? And then 2, they'll also be the ones you lose first as soon as you stop competing on price. So understanding that going into it, when it goes to a pricing strategy, it's not just the cost of them doing business, because they aren't value shopping you, they're price shopping you. So if that's what their trigger is, as soon as you start valuing yourself, because now you're having to value your your products and your services with your pricing, that can create problems long term.
Yeah.
Well, and I think also, Roger, this is the old saying of 20% of your customer base is going to make you 80% of your money, right? Because they're going to be your higher clients, and they're going to be creating the least problems probably too, because they see the value in you, they see what you're doing. So, at some point, I think you have to kind of draw a line in the sand and say, this is my value, this is what my worth is, and just stick with it, even if you miss out on conversions at that point.
Alan, what do you think?
I mean, I agree. I think there's, credence to what everyone said. And, you don't necessarily want to discount yourself. But as someone that does marketing with, quite a few different products and services, I do. And now that I have a salesperson on board, I do leave room for negotiation. Maybe that's starting a little bit higher, but it depends. I mean, if we're talking about a few $100, no. But if we're talking about a really big client that's like, hey, I'll close right now, today, give you the credit card, send in the agreement right now over the phone, I'm willing to negotiate a little bit and have a little bit of room there. So it just depends on the type of client. It depends, also, you have to look at what your margins are. What are you paying that salesperson? What is that product worth to you? How much time are you investing in it? How much time is your team investing in it? So I don't want to make myself look cheap, because the last thing you want to do is, I think the pricing stuff comes down to USP, or unique sales proposition. If you have nothing unique about yourself, then the client is just at that point just looking for price. And if you are only competing on price and they're just looking for the lowest price possible, then probably you're not going to have a good client, and you're maybe not going to have a good business model. So you have to have something about unique where they, kind of have that aha moment for your client, where you go from, it'd be nice to have it, to you're a must have, kind of like if you think of like Tesla, right? You get into their dealership, they put you in a car, they take you on a test drive, the G forces are going, your face is flapping backwards. You go from 0 to 60 in 2.4 seconds. And this is a must have product or a must have service. So if you can make yourself a must have service or product, you don't have to negotiate some price as much, but every case is a little bit different. So if the margins are there, I'm okay with negotiating a little bit.
And
Awesome.
I was going to say that I do completely agree with that, especially if you're like, I have a card in hand, I'm about to hit click on the DocuSign, PandaDoc, whatever signing service, and I'm ready to close. Yeah, that's a number one time for everyone. And honestly, I use that type of mindset when I'm making big purchases myself on different products, because it works both ways, both as a consumer and as a vendor or business partner. So yeah, there are definitely times to do that. You're right, but there's a lot more marketing agencies than there are what we do in the spaces we normally do our business,
100%.
which is the legal side, right? Yeah.
All right. So for me, okay, there's a couple of things that I'm going to kind of chime in on, because again, like we've all interacted before, so you've heard some of what my considerations are for pricing, right? So number one, I want to be Publix. I don't want to be Walmart, right? I believe in what I'm doing, and because of that, I'm going to price appropriately, right? Plus, I have a business to support and employees to support, right? And I believe in what I'm doing so much that I want to grow the people that that I can offer my services to, and the only way I can do that is to be consistent, right? Because when I am looking at pricing itself, I have certain margins that I'm going to get. Now, some I'm going to have to average a certain margin to be able to pay my bills, take care of the commission. You have to know that up front, for a sales commission for salespeople. You need to consider all the costs. So I actually have a cost model. My first step is always getting a cost model together. And that includes everything from technology, software, insurances, all of that fun stuff. And once I come up with that cost model, I'll have an hourly rate, an average hourly rate associated with it, etc. And then I back into my margins, and that's where I put my pricing. Right now, some products are leaner than others, which means you have less ability just by virtue of what they are, and what the market sets that price for. To have much, meat on the bone. So, like for example, a lot of people don't know, if you go to a car, if you go to a car dealership, they don't make money off of the sale of new cars. They do make money off the sale of used cars, but they make the most of their money and how they keep the lights on is through their service department, right? So it's the same kind of thought process. If there are complementary products, some have margins, some don't, whether it be economic pressures by who's, in the market with you, or, it's just your costs for the people that you have there. When you bundle those products and you come up with those pricing models, you want to have an average margin. Now, one of the things I do too with my salespeople is I give them some flexibility, right? So I'll say, hey, look, I'm going to pay you X amount of commission on this no matter what. Now, if I'm in a situation like Alan, the longer your sales cycle is and the longer it goes past that initial conversation where you've got someone going, every day that you don't close that deal, your chances of closing that deal goes down 20%. So there is an advantage to being a little bit flexible on pricing when you negotiate, right? I put that in my salespeople's hands, right? I say to them, hey, look, this is how much I've accounted for in my pricing for your commission. I'm going to give you this percentage of that commission that I'm going to pay you that you can negotiate on. And the idea is I want to empower my team to, one, believe in the product, and two, be able to have that conversation and close, right away without having to go back and forth and doing the car sales model where it's like, okay, let me go to the desk. I'm going to pencil this out and go to the desk and go talk to my manager, right? If someone believes in what they're doing, then I trust that they're going to be judicious with their commission, right? And give up what they believe is the right thing for the client. So I actually put that in their hands. So, but I know that up front because I still have to run a business, right? What you don't want to do is price yourself so far below market that people don't respect the services that you offer. Because if you are going to win business on price, people are going to look at you as the lowest cost, option that you have out there. So you don't want to position yourself out there because people assign value based on price. You see that with Apple products versus Microsoft products versus XYZ, right? They accomplish the same thing, but the design language, the branding that's been built around Apple, and the usability, right, means that people pay a premium for that price. So that's kind of my approach on it. But I look for an average margin when I'm putting these bundles together, because I don't want to put a bunch of products together that are super low margin, because it doesn't make sense for me. I'm not going to continue that relationship long term. So you want to make sure, the goal is not to make a ton of money on somebody, because you want a fair price, but you also want to be fair to yourself, because there's the concept of a loss leader, and the loss leader doesn't mean that you 100% take a loss on the service that you're offering. It means you take less of a margin on that particular product, because otherwise you won't be in business very long. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We're about 30, 40 minutes in. Let's talk a little bit about SaaS pricing. So software as a service, right? And people hear about this when you're talking about software, but this really can be applied to every single model. And people are getting so used to, having that option and how to pay that. It's really gotten industry creep, is what I'm going to call it, right? It's gone from software and technology now to all other aspects. It's a buying behavior that people expect because they've been exposed to it so much. So when we're talking about the SaaS model, and you've heard this many, many times before, what we're talking about is a lot of times you'll have two options, right? You'll either buy it for a discounted price if you pay for a full year up front, or you can spread out your payments, and you're essentially providing, for lack of a better term, financing for someone for that particular product. And it psychologically, it means that they're paying less, right? Because if you're presented with a higher amount up front, most people are really like, I don't want to pay for that all up front. And there's a hesitance there, right? That's why it's offset by the discount, because you, as the company, want that money up front because money's in the bank, right? Versus someone paying monthly and then being able to opt out. So you have that option, but you offer the option where it's slightly more per month, right? But it's a smaller chunk that they're paying. It's the whole, you can, you saw this with the Arms of an Angel song, Sarah McLachlan stuff. It's only 1 cent per day, and you can sponsor this child in Africa, right? It's essentially a new evolution of that. And I hate to say that because it's a good cause, and I'm not trying to disparage it, but that's where people were first exposed to it. And now we've got it to a point where you're paying those monthly fees versus upfront. So like in marketing, if you pay, let's say $1,200 or $1,500 a month, if you really start adding that up over time, people start realizing, okay, that's a lot of money. And again, this harkens back to our previous chat about marketing and being able to understand value and articulate value to your client for that money, right? So let's talk a little bit about how you've applied that in your industries, Rob. I know you've kind of done that. Alan, if you want to talk about that as well, and obviously Josh. So Rob, I'm going to hand the floor over to you and how you've applied the SaaS model to your patients.
Sure. So, it's pretty simple in my situation. So really the treatments that I offer are pretty long-term regardless. So, to get results, you need to do them for at least 6 months. And quite honestly, some of them are lifelong. If you stop them, then you're going to revert back to the way you were. So when I present to patients, I present to them kind of 3 options. And it's up to them. I offer quarterly payments because that's the way the treatment comes in 3-month blocks. So I offer them that, I offer them half year and a year. And essentially, they get a discount if they pay all up front for the whole year. So, and then I just manage it from that standpoint, and you're on autopilot from there. So there's not really many more options in my situation. There are some industries that there are finance companies that you go through, but that's more for procedural base, for like one-time options, and then you pay it off. But for my option, we offer that service to our patients.
Yeah, and what do you see more of? Do you see people in your? And I know yours is a little bit different. I wouldn't call it. It's not like It's not. I don't want to disparage this and say it's not like a vanity thing, right? But it's outside of something like an insurance company. It's a cash basis type of thing.
Cash basis
it provides wellness, but it's something that these individuals have to pay out of pocket. That's not covered by insurance most of the time. So, do you feel like that SaaS model has made it easier for them to stomach that?
It does. Yeah, it does. And it makes it easier in their mind, because when they hear a chunk of money, they're like, oh, wow, But then I even tell them, well, this is what it would equate to if you paid it month by month. This is how much you can think of in your budget, right? And then some of them, I just have an honest conversation with them. And some of them say, well, I can't afford to pay that much up front for the whole year. Could I? That's how it kind of started with me, honestly. A patient asked me, well, can I pay it in smaller chunks? And I said, yeah, that's fine with me. So we just have an agreement, the sales agreement, and it says you're going to pay on these days, just like you would do a payment plan. But we do it quarterly, basically.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is you're providing value, right away every single month. So they're basically they're paying for the value that you're providing them right away, because you're providing, when you enter into an agreement like that, in your case, it's literally, and everybody's case, really, you're providing them those services each month, right? And they're feeling better, and they're getting thinner. They're seeing the weight loss, and the other problems that you mentioned earlier, that I'm trying to keep it a cleanest show as possible, are getting better, right? So there's real value that you're providing and doing it on a monthly basis.
And I think the other unique thing is in my situation, they can sort of use their health plan in a way, because they can use their health savings account. So they can use that. They just need some documentation, and I provide that for them. So it's a kind of workaround. They don't use their per se insurance, but even some of the insurance companies are starting to come around, not with services I perform, but you've probably heard of PRP, where they inject joints and this to help with pain, right? You hear the commercials all the time. I was speaking with a colleague in Texas, and he said he was approached by 2 smaller insurance companies that want to pay him his cash fee, and they'll pay him a check because it's cheaper than sending a patient to get a knee replacement. And the patients like it. They want it because they don't have to go to true surgery. They don't have to miss time from work, all these sort of things. So it's a win-win for the patient. And now some insurance companies are starting to see where it's being beneficial. So it'll be interesting to see how this develops in the future.
Awesome. Josh, did you have something to add there?
Yeah. So if you're using your HSA, that's kind of like a monthly payment anyway. You're just kind of the monthly payment. If you get ahead of this and you know what you're going to spend, you're taking it right out of your paycheck, and then it's just going over to you when you get the documentation. So at the end of the day, it is monthly recurring expense or revenue, depending on the side of it. So it kind of, because of what you do, it kind of fits into that mold anyway. You just have to shape it in your mind from a consumer aspect, from a consumer side, versus you're just getting a monthly MRR, payment and whatnot. So
right.
It's interesting.
So, by the way, I hate to interrupt, but this is breaking news. Taylor Hendricks goes number 9 to the Utah Jazz in the 2023 NBA draft. Congrats, Taylor. Super proud of you, and congrats UCF, first top 10 first round pick. Yeah. So super excited.
Give him 5 years, he'll be on the show. He'll have to
Well,
own a business.
hopefully I'll get him in 2, maybe 3. You know, maybe he'll own some Papa John's, like what our oh gosh, I can't remember his name. The quarterback for Denver.
John Elway?
No, not John Elway. Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning. Yeah, Peyton Manning owns all those Papa John's. Maybe he'll invest wisely when it comes to that.
Shaq owns all those franchises too. There are positive things when you make that type of dollars. So yeah, he'll be a business owner at some point, I hope, and do well for himself.
Alan, why don't you give us your take on SaaS pricing and how that works for you?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, you know, for me, I offer comparable to the SaaS model. I guess, you know, you're not going to necessarily see a pricing page on my website and things like that. I mean, because for me, it feels very custom. I mean, like I said before, you know, I have to weigh a few different things, like the value that I'm providing for the client and, you know, what their budget is. So for me to have a blanket price doesn't feel as correct, because, you know, we have different variables maybe than a SaaS product. Like, you know, what are you spending on Google ads and Facebook ads? What is the average cost per click? You know, what is a lead worth to you? You know, all these different things. So I understand the, you know, SaaS model, and I think it's great. It's just, you know, for what I offer, it's definitely a little bit more custom. Maybe when it comes to like websites, it can be a little more in the SaaS model. You know, if we're getting, you know, a templated website, you know, it's going to cost X. But as we start to get, you know, more and more custom based on the client's needs, you know, the price has to reflect that. So I think it's a little bit different from, you know, what, you know, SaaS companies offer.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it's more about like, for me, when I'm talking about this and in the marketing space, it's more about like understanding that monthly cost, right? Versus anything else. And in some instances, like if we work with HubSpot, we are a reseller for HubSpot, right? So there's seat licenses there. There's the SaaS model there for that as well. But I agree. Like one of the things of marketing is you know, you have specific products, but you have to make sure that you have that client conversation so you know the depth of what they're looking for. And for us, it's more like we try to, you know, tell folks, okay, look, for a cheaper price, you're going to get more standard things. The more customization you put on there, you know, this is what you're going to get, right? And because it's more work, you know, it's more hammers, it's more time, it's more creativity, and it's things that you can't do yourself. You know, whether it be social media marketing, whether it's anything else, and what can you do with that time you're paying us for, right? Where in the things that you are an expert in, because you're providing those services to someone else, and that's the whole point of all of this. So, yeah, it's an interesting conversation, and it doesn't necessarily work for all businesses, but it does. That model makes it more palatable. And the other part about this is from a contractual perspective, right? It introduces the idea of an auto renewal. It introduces the idea of, you know, keeping those services, because, okay, you're going into a new relationship. A client's coming into a new relationship with you. They have all of their past experiences that are going to be coming with them, right? And then you're providing a service, so they've got bias there, and then you're providing a service as well for those people, and you're trying to offer them. You come to an agreement on the price, and now they are working with you. So over time, you're going to earn that trust because you do a good job at what you do, and hopefully remember those conversations we had in the previous videos about being able to articulate value, right? And you've come up with those solutions and KPIs for yourself internally that you both agreed upon to show, okay, this is how I'm providing value, right? And finally, you know, you're humming along, and it gives you the ability that at month 9, right, of a 12-month agreement or a 16 or an 18 or 24 or whatever you're going for, it auto renews for you, right? The idea behind this is we don't have to go back and resell it. The service that I'm providing you, you're taking a chance with me up front. I'm fulfilling on that value that I'm bringing to you. And now you're going to auto renew with me. So you don't have to go back and sell that every single time. And that's also a component of the SaaS model that has been pulled into contracts for all the other services, right? So for example, with marketing, I don't want to have to go, because it costs me money to reacquire you. So if I'm setting you up with a contract, I've got you on the monthly, and we have a renewal aspect in that contract, then we don't have to have that conversation as long as I'm providing value to you. And so that makes life easier for everybody involved, because they don't have to remember. You're not having to bother the client. They just continue on. And, for you, you're not having to sell and spend that money and that time on reselling to that client. Now, you should be checking in with that client anyway to make sure that they're happy, right? They're your client. It's your relationship. It's a business relationship. So you should be making sure that your team is fulfilling on your promise and providing that value. But it should make that conversation a lot easier later on. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our hour. That's gone by really fast. Congratulations to Taylor Hendricks. Gents, I'm going to give you the floor. Is there anything that you guys want to cover in the last 3 or 4 minutes? Rob, anything on this topic?
I think the biggest thing is to have a clear vision of what you're offering from the beginning and build out from there. Also, to branding is so important with all of this, right? That helps create your value, and you're selling a solution with this. If you have the solution, your clients should pay it because you're going to deliver on it, and you should know your value for this. I think that's a big mistake we all make, is we just undervalue ourselves and get into this price war. And I know in some industries you may have to do that, but for the most part, what are you going to have to do if you have more volume? You're going to have to hire more people. You're going to have more cogs in the wheels. And so you kind of have to have that structure from the beginning to figure out what your value really is, test it. And if you're getting good results, then don't be afraid to go up on it, because people, if you're providing good service and good solutions, people will pay it. And I think you have to test that from time to time also, and keep that in mind during this whole process.
Awesome. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything that was said tonight was great. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is, is just knowing your value. I know that sounds cliche, but I think especially when you're starting out, you're very quick to lower your prices because you just want to get that first client in the door, which maybe in the beginning that's okay. But even someone like me that's 5 years in, sometimes I still kind of feel like, all right, well, I'm going to do their website for a lower amount, because that means after I do their website, I can get their SEO business or their ads business. But starting from that standpoint I don't think is a healthy thing for your business. And, if they're, going to pass on what you can offer and not appreciate the time that you're putting in, that's not going to change at the next level. If you end up getting their SEO business or things like that. I mean, maybe there are exceptions to the rule, but in general, I think you gotta, figure out what your time is worth, because, I started to realize some of the, for example, websites I was essentially in the beginning paying people to do their website when you consider the amount of time that was spent in the back and forth and my team's time. So, just getting a client in the door isn't worth it. Just to do it, maybe to get a portfolio going or something like that. But in general, I think it's really crucial to, value your time, but you need a number on that, and you need to have some sort of timing system that's going to, showcase, how much time you're spending, and make sure you're getting your value, and be confident in that.
Yeah. And I'll talk about that on my closing thought, but that leads into a whole operations thing, which we haven't even touched on. So That's a whole probably couple of shows at least. So
Yeah.
Josh, what about your thoughts? And then also, can you share any updates on the software that we are working on to promote and make better?
Yeah. So I'd say with the closing thoughts of this topic from products and bundling, you need to know your worth, you need to know your products, and you need to know how to get to be a business partner, not a vendor, because those are two separate things. Being a vendor is just a commodity that you can buy, whether that commodity is a physical object or just your time to build a website, right? Just some type of commodity. But that business partner is someone that's helping you grow your business, helping you be efficient, helping you fulfill your needs as a business and minimize pains or increase gains, one or the other. So when you know all that, then you can take the products, you can understand your worth, reverse engineer it, and understand what you need to produce and present to your potential clients. So I think that's really how I'd encapsulate my thoughts on this. Talking about the other side of it, the GoldenKnightsClub.com website, I just went into our project management software and I got a bunch of updates happening on the development side of it. So a lot of the team is working on better ways to get better error trapping and better contact information. We're trying to do some things to make the back end work a little bit faster. And it's interesting because I need to do a little more research, but there doesn't seem to be any specific product in the marketplace that's dedicated for businesses to help other businesses. There's definitely alumni helping and mentoring, helping students, and there's 3 or 4 things there. But what we're really trying to build here is something to help support communities of business owners and anyone who would like to work with UCF businesses specifically. So sign up, let us know your experience. We're working to get development ramped up on the development side, user acceptance testing, then merge it into production. So you might see a couple of little things here and there if you go to it, but the team's working well, and I'm hoping we get to the point in a couple of weeks where it's done, and then they can work on the other fun stuff going on this summer. So that's what we're at right now.
Awesome. Yeah, a couple of housekeeping items. I'm actually meeting with Josh. We're meeting with the team from UCF on Monday to talk about more ways that the show can help, promote business owners. I actually met with, I told you guys last week that I had someone that I reached out to on Reddit that was a current UCF student who was feeling a little discouraged. So I had a great conversation with him this week. We're going to continue to have that conversation. Josh, I'm actually going to make a soft intro to you for him because he's a computer science guy. So this is what it's all about, right?
Sounds great.
And I'm looking forward to meeting with them on Monday. And then, when it comes to this, my 3 rules of business, and all 3 of you have heard me say this, these are my personal rules. These aren't written anywhere. This is quote unquote trademark Roger Phipps, right? So 1 is people do business with people they like. Makes sense, right? If you are kindred spirits or have some sort of connection, then obviously that helps, right? Secondly, both parties have to get something out of it. So to your point, Josh, and Alan and Rob, all of you have said this has to be a relationship, right? Where both parties are getting something out of it. And lastly, there has to be equity in the relationship. So if you go in and you are pricing yourself so low that you're actually hurting yourself, okay, that relationship is unbalanced. So and it's not going to be fair to you, and in the long term it's going to end up breaking down. So if any one of those last 2 items are not part of that relationship, a lot of times it's best just not to do the business altogether. That's okay, because ultimately you're invested in them, right? You're invested in your client's success. They should be invested in yours as well. And that's how I'm going to kind of leave it for this week. And next week, we'll have another guest. We actually have 2 guests lined up back-to-back weeks. that are going to be talking with us, UCF business owners or, folks that coaching is going to be something we're going to be looking at here pretty soon as well. And obviously we need to talk about ops. The more we talk about these things, the more things kind of pop up, which is the whole point of this. So thanks, Josh, for all of that. Keep giving us the updates on the GKC thing. I'll report next week on our meeting with UCF to see how we're furthering UCF's mission of helping entrepreneurship and connecting, entrepreneurs. And I just want to thank all of you again for joining and helping me do this. So that's all for this evening. Congratulations, Taylor Hendricks. Go Knights and charge on.
Charge on.
Charge on. Bye, everyone.
Charge on.